Hi, my name is Irwin Williams. I'm the Chief Software Engineer at Telios Systems, and this is my presentation, Agents of Teams. At Telios, we use Microsoft Teams pretty extensively, and here are some of the key features of Teams. From chat, voice, video, and of course plain text to almost anywhere access. It really is a very solid part of how we work today. Teams has this thing where you have your companies grouped into teams, and the teams can be maybe composed of channels, and those channels are really good to help you do the things listed underneath in terms of consolidation and spotlighting of issues and resources in the company. I like as well we were always moving away from too much chattiness in email into other platforms, and Teams has become a really good place for that. Of course, a home for a lot of content, so it's easy to find things, easy to figure out where things could be and that kind of stuff. And as well, you can add a number of applications and extensibility points to it, which is why I found it to be so attractive and why I did some of the innovations you'll see in this talk. So Teams, of course, is used across the organization, as you see from these groups here. This is just an example of some of the groups, from HR to IT to engineering and project management. So to start us off, I want to talk about TFW. TFW stands here in this context for time for work. If you've been following some of my previous chatbot development, you know I would have used TFW for time for water. It probably needed some more innovation here, but it felt good and it worked. Why it exists is because my usage pattern for Teams involves essentially calling anybody who's set to green. Meaning, as long as their status is set to available, I just just make a Teams call, reach out to them. But sometimes, even though it's set to green, they're not actually in office that day. They may have just logged on to check something out, or they may have responded to a message they wanted to, but they're not in office. And sometimes it's good to know whether they are or not, to know how to bother them or not, you know what I mean? So it's easy to do. Just log into our HR app, go to the calendar and scroll, and you're good to go. However, sometimes it feels like that's breaking your flow. You're already near to Teams, why not just send a message there? Which is how this came about. So I sent sometimes a one-word message out, and the chatbot knows that means who's out today, and sends back a reply like this, telling me who's out, how long they're out for, and maybe why they're out. Pretty straightforward, and similar approaches to what I've used in the past in terms of deliver a message to the bot and then get a reply really quickly that's focused and functional. But for some reason, when I was doing this, it reminded me of daily reports. I kind of felt, oh, you know what, beyond just asking who's out, what about using this to track what's going on with your days? And that comes from when we started doing daily reports. It turned out to be a really good way for me to contemplate my days. Now, daily reports, not these kinds of reports. We're not they weren't meant to be frustrating, although some were. And that time led me to putting this into my calendar as a way to help me contemplate the day. What value did we add today? Could be seen by some to be kind of heavy, or maybe not. Just do a quick scan. And because of that relationship, I was thinking how to extend time for work, how to add some more to it. And that led me to discovering this bit of research that Microsoft had done, like many other large companies during COVID, on how their employees who may have been new to the remote workspace, as well as the other challenges around work-life balance and working home with your kids. So this was an extension developed to help corral that information and find insights from it if possible. But they didn't just put out the research, they actually shared the code to implement this messaging extension in your own Teams environment, which is what we did. Now, this is how it structured, is the architecture of it. And essentially, by providing the code in GitHub and providing deployment templates that describe the fact the application needs these resources, is a really good way to get up and running And this architecture diagram that came from that same repo helps kind of let you see how the information is flowing and how the resources are used, from the bot framework to the logic app used for notification to the storage, the Azure storage table. All that stuff is a nice way to consider how to put the resources together. So I was glad for that. And so Reflect receives your team messages or pushes messages out to you, and via web app, it would pass it on both to the from the bots framework and into storage that can be used for greater insights later on. And it presents questions like this, really. How are you feeling about today's project, or how is work-life balance? And I was glad that it was so focused on that thing, and my chatbot, Time for Work, is focused on simply saying who's in or out based on the calendar that my HR system used. So I put them together, but there was a lot of learning from simply writing the extension in Teams to writing the chatbot in Teams, which is Time for Work, discovering the messaging extension, and just doing more work in extensions, figuring out how message extensions work. And the next, I think, key learning here for me was skills. That there's a thing called bot framework skills. So you can have chatbot A, Time for Work, chatbot B, Reflect, and they can talk to each other without having to put the code from chatbot A into chatbot B, which was beneficial for me because I didn't need to do a lot of rework to get these two to communicate. And this is what it looks like. So this is the Reflect chatbot who runs the Reflect messaging extension, but it can handle questions meant for Time for Work because it simply passes them on via the bot framework skills functionality. And it also delivers on what we wanted to deliver in terms of talking about how was work, what's the work-life balance like, and questions like that. It can field via this interface. So you have the two bots talking to each other. And of course, I was very interested in how I could get that contemplative question represented inside of the Reflect extension. And it did really well. So those three learnings were really interesting for me, especially bots talking to each other. That feels like a good way to contemplate this thing of agents of teams, the bots working together to accomplish some goal. So moving on from agents of teams with Time for Work and Reflect, and even their interaction as skills, let's talk about another bot, Eric. So Eric is the enterprise exercise bot. Just if we were to step back before COVID, before lockdown, any given day you walk through Telios, you could have seen a whiteboard with a log of people's push-up statistics. You could have seen someone doing push-ups or doing rolls on the rolly thing. I'm sorry, I don't remember what it's called, the rolly thing. But we were always trying to encourage each other to be physically fit. Either there would be people who do a lot of running or cycling, a lot of high intensity activity. So you had that lead up to COVID, and even leading up to COVID, we were going through another one of those cycles, and then boom, lockdown hits. Gian Bell, he's one of our administrators at Telios, built a Power App solution to help us stay physically fit by gamifying the whole approach and encouraging us to share, log our workouts and share how much we've been doing. And as it turns out, every week, because of his Power App, we were able to kind of follow each other in the leaderboard, and it turned out to be a really good way to keep us encouraged and keep us engaged. That particular one, Gian did share on the Telios Code Jam website on the YouTube page, so you could actually see him talking about it in some detail. But that was just version 1 of it. He did another version that focused on an interesting Star Trek meme. So we are in the enterprise of Telios, but we're also in this enterprise where we are escalating in terms of skill and level. So in his second power up, he might have started off like an ensign, which is a very low ranked, not really low, but a lower ranked individual on the ship. But by working out frequently and by engaging each other and having variety, you could have gone up to commander or lieutenant commander. Not to make it militaristic, but to just demonstrate continual activity, continual fitness, even while we're separated, might have really good benefit for us and will have really good benefit. While using it, I always felt, I wish I could enter my information more easily, more quickly. So I thought, gee, let me make this chatbot. And as it turns out, when I reached out to intermediate chatbot, there was a hackathon that was coming on, one of those Facebook hackathons. So we tried our hand at entering this version of the Power App solution Gian had built into that hackathon. All we got was a school swag. But the bug had bit, and I wanted this bot to live for real in Teams. And so we built it out so that it could talk to his Power App via an API call using bot framework facilities like adaptive cards and adaptive dialogues, and also Azure functions, so that you could register your workouts. Either if you look at the screen, either via that step-by-step add workout and planks, then number of time and the body weight, or, and this is how I prefer to use it, you could essentially group your work. So look at this video. Let me just show you how it would flow. You have to register, and there's a lot of learning taking place here, because at first, because it was an internal application, there was a high degree of trust. We didn't really bother to go through a lot of authentication. So it's simply, if you tell me you're Irwin and you're going to log as Irwin, and we will take it as such. We will change that later on, but for now, it was simple authentication. This is at the chatbot level. Not for Gion's Power App as a regular Power App. But here you can see I'm logging workout, I'm logging reps, and the way I used, I wanted to use the bot wasn't so line 1, line 2, line 3. I wanted to push everything into one update. So you can see here, after all that workout, I just log all the reps in one message. So I wanted my bot to parse that and get that to where it needed to go. Which was where the customization came in, which is why it turned out to be, to me, a useful way to consider the solution. So once it was sent up, it would go first across to the Power App, and you would see it talks about the level I'm at because of the workouts that we've been doing, and it captured each workout so it could be properly allocated. But not just in terms of getting there. You notice at the earlier point of the video, it let you enter a Strava authentication token. That's so that it would update the Power App and let my colleagues at Telio see, but my friends on Strava, who I also wanted to see this work, they could get the updates as well. So that this one bot is talking to both the Power App that Gian created, as well as Strava, and letting all the people I want to check out this activity easily check it out. So that's Eric, the enterprise exercise bot. So we had, I think, fun trying to get through the hackathon, but also just knowing where this can go. There's still a bit of work to do on it, but I'm hoping we could release it to at least to the wider Telus community in the first instance, just to see how it works, see what value it adds. Already in talking to my colleagues and talking to my friends at work, I've been getting good ideas on how it should be extended. So that's always hopeful. So this is Eric, the enterprise exercise bot. Now, let's talk about Eric. Eric Air IQ A. Eric A. Alright, let's see what this is. So it's related to do with air quality. And in Trinidad, I would take on air quality because, of course, relatives would have challenges with asthma or whatever. But this year in particular, it seemed to take a jump. the skies were legit dark for a long period of time. I think because of the Sahara Desert, and coinciding with that Sahara dust. Sorry, coinciding with that, soon after either the EMA or Ministry of Planning put out this website that would show information about air quality at Port of Spain, Point Lisas, and Signal Hill, Tobago. So they did that, and I noted it. And from the time I noted it, I thought, that's cool. And then I saw this statement that they were looking to put out a mobile app to track air quality, and I thought, maybe not an app. Maybe you could do something else, like a chatbot. So this tweet made me more curious about what could be done, and I thought, all right, let's roll out a chatbot that simply provides information about air quality. It's a simple query maybe, and that's what I did. But it was with some challenges because the Teams part of things, to me, was straightforward. I did it in a relatively short space of time, but I had to essentially re-architect the solution, but not just re-architect it, find out how it's done for Google Actions. And why did I want to do it for Google Actions? I had it working for Teams fine, but I really wanted to be able to use my Google Home to say, hey, ask the Air Index, the Air IQ agent, what's going on with air in Port of Spain, for example. And that's what my goal was. As it turned out, because I had so much experience with Teams, I kept trying to get Teams and Azure, I kept trying to get the least amount of work done possible to get the Google Assistant to work. And for the most part, I didn't. I struggled for quite a while, and I had to kind of settle for the Teams version that was okay. I liked it. I like that. If you were to run this video, for example, just like with Time for Work, you send out, you get a good response. You send quality here, and there were a number of other kinds of messages you could send, but quality will cause this bot to go check for the current air quality index and come back with it for the 3 localities in Trinidad. You can see here it says the air quality index in Port of Spain is 124, which could be troublesome for some. So it's already good information, and it also lets you use the link provided to go to the actual air quality site hosted by, I think, by the EMA, so that you could get more insight into what's going on with air quality. So I was glad for this, and I thought, all right, cool. But I really wanted to be able to wake up in the morning and say, hey Google, ask the air quality agent what's going on. So I kept kind of knocking on that door, and after a lot of trial and error, because I guess I'm not familiar with it, it took a while to understand the best ways to do it and not simply try to push everything across to the work I'd done before and get a response back. I eventually got it to this point, which is a minimal point, but at least it got me moving forward, and I'm looking forward to
Okay, getting the test version of Air IQ Agent.
Hello, area. The air quality index in Port of Spain, Trinidad is 124. Check your device for more info.
So this is a really simple interaction. Where there was silence between it and me is when I actually said Port of Spain, and it responded to it and did the check for Port of Spain and noticed the similar values because I did the tests around similar times. That kind of thing I like a lot. I like the ease of this, and this is done on my phone, so I have Google Assistant on my phone as well. Take your phone up, what's the air quality index? As opposed to having an app written, having an app provision somewhere. I tend to make the argument chatbots can be very, very useful to get to the last mile of a lot of functionality. There is already a website. I had to build my own API. I think Nicholas Mendes had asked Caribbean developers a little while ago about things like scraping. And unfortunately, for services like this, if there are no official APIs, that tends to be only recourse. So this pulls the information from that site and displays it now here both in Google and in Teams, which I'm very happy to see. So let's take a turn for something completely different. completely different. So most of the chatbots I've spent time writing involved taking text and doing things with it, querying a service, parsing it, using natural language understanding, even taking other kinds of content like images and parsing it or running it through machine learning, stuff like that. So yes, take content and in a very discrete way work with it. I've not done a lot of audio and video stuff with chatbots, and yet you can. And I had this idea to interact with one of the streams. So it sent me down a funny trail, down a hill really, to tumble and tumble, but eventually discover some interesting stuff or learn some interesting stuff. So this agent I call Mood because I could not think of a better name, and I'm sorry, but I think it's still pretty cool. Here's what it does. Here's what happened. I had this idea, so I'm digging around to see how to get the idea done, and ended up inside of this GitHub repo that talks about how to access the media streams of a call. And I then thought, this would be cool. This bot would be cool. So this mood bot tries to let you express your mood directly into the audio streams of a meeting. Just a thing I thought would be kind of cool. I don't know that it's super useful, but maybe it could be. So here's how it works. So you'll notice here that a join message is sent to the bot with a URL to a Teams meeting. This will cause another virtual agent to join that meeting. So this bot is at the front door to that agent. So when it joins a meeting, it sends back a meeting ID. And now I turn up a turntable, and for that meeting, I can express these ideas via audio. So that's playing in the meeting across the meeting channels without anyone having to share their audio from their machine directly. So at first I sent some waves, then to express a bit of frustration, I sent the classic scream. And my friend Ikechi is a musician, a producer, and he produced this really cool track. I like that it represents a particular point in meeting. We're getting somewhere. And then Derek Hack had a post I saw on Facebook that I thought was pretty cool. You'll see it in a little while, but this represents a response to that, to the query his post posed. This is that music you play to get someone off the stage. They're too long. Stop it now. So this bot, to be clear, this bot doesn't play any music. This bot simply tells another bot, join a Teams call, access the audio stream of the call, and send music down to the call based on command, based on the music I select. I'd never done that before, and I was glad to see how it was laid out and how you had to think about it. So the examples in the repo utilize Azure Service Fabric, which is one way to arrange many applications that need to run in concert. You could do it with containers today, or an array of virtual machines. So it's a kind of development I am curious about and try to get some experience with, even though a lot of clients tend to simply want a website to do something and do it quickly. So that was pretty cool. And this post is the one I saw that made me smile a bit, because if you look at the response, I have something for this hack. And here it is. It's a bot that can let you play wrap-up music inside of a call to tell someone, hey, easy up now, we get it, time to go. So those were the bots that represented my agents of Teams. I had a couple more ideas that are still baking. So maybe in the future we could have some more chats about it. And I like that this particular set of considerations is driving me deeper and deeper to understand things about virtual agents and accessing audio streams and video streams to do cool things in the future. So I think that's it for me. Thank you for your time. Thank you to the people organizing this. I'm always glad to hear from Nicolas Mendez and the other people in the Google developer community, as well as they are encouraging others to bring their stories, bring what they've seen, what they've understood, and even ask questions as well. Also like to shout out the Caribbean developer community. I think it's continuing to build and continue to grow, and I think it's going to go from strength to strength. I'm glad to be here. I am the Chief Software Engineer at Telios Systems. Telios has a bunch of developers who I want to say big up to as well. They are continuing to help us discover new ways to consider things, to consider solutions, and do it in a way that is fun and exciting. I look forward to working continuously with them to build cool things, even though there are challenges and challenging times like the COVID season 2 we're in, really. So cheers, everyone. Stay safe.